Local peacebuilders are in a way the front line of the whole peace movement. They are the ones who are fighting for peace on the ground in the real situation.
As a person who promotes violence-free spaces for girls and young women to thrive, I'm definitely a peace builder.
In every and each context in the world, people find solutions for the problems that are there. It doesn't matter which context, they are creative, they stay together, and it's always about togetherness and building up a community.
I would say that peace building matters, that the work that every single one of the persons that are here do in wherever they are, it is such powerful work.
We need to grow peace building wider and bigger than before. And it starts with everyone. I think everyone can do something a little contribution to make our communities, our societies safer.
Peace is possible and it's never too late, and we have to have the hope to every day do a step in the right direction.
Trauma healing is the heart of peace building. And if your heart is beating, then the whole organism can recover and become healthy again.
Peace is an ultimate goal.
When war and conflict starts, life for ordinary people stops. The rhythm of daily existence is replaced by silence, fear, and survival. Families are torn apart. Communities, once united, become divided by suspicion, grief, and loss. The simple act of living, like eating, learning, and access to healthcare, becomes a distant memory. People are forced to endure unimaginable hardships every day. The wounds remain, not just on land, but deep within the hearts of those who lived through the conflict.
I am Babloo Loitongbam. I run a small organization called the Human Rights Alert in Manipur, based in Imphal. And we have been documenting human rights cases, organizing the victims, and opening up access to the victims to the redress mechanisms of human rights. We see a lot of violence around. We see impunity which are institutionalized, where the security forces and the military can get away with anything that they do, including murder, rape, torture. The need for establishing accountability and basically fighting for the justice and dignity of the communities which are victimized is what really motivated. Manipur, being a very isolated place and have a history of, a very different history than the rest of the country, face systemic discrimination based on race, ethnicity, and I was trying to respond to some of this to make sure that the people there feel the same level of dignity that anybody else deserves.
For more than 10 years, Global Peacebuilders Network has partnered with local people
who are saving lives in the most challenging environments in the world. In Uganda, Immaculate Mukasa leads a feminist revolution. Through MEMPRO, she empowers girls and young women to reclaim their voice, dismantle patriarchy, and build violence-free communities.
My name is Immaculate Mukasa from Uganda. I work with a local organization called MEMPRO in full. It's the mentoring and empowerment program for young women. And our target groups are girls and young women. And we want them to be part of the voice that contributes to peace. What feminism means to me is having people, everybody, aware of the need for equality and providing equal opportunities for both boys and girls, for men and women. We believe that the communities have a lot of experience because they've been doing things in a peaceful way for many years before we came to exist. Along the way, because of conflict, there were shifts here and there, and we find that some of the practices today, they do not provide women voice, they do not give girls voice, but we believe that the community, there is history in that community, and we have an opportunity to go back, interrogate the norms, the practices and the beliefs, and pick out those that are good, work around them in order to promote peace and sustainable coexistence of everybody.
My journey started actually being thousands of kilometers away from Venezuela. I was studying abroad when in 2014, a girl my age suffered from attempted rape in a Venezuelan university. And I was thousands of kilometers away, imagining what I would do with the rest of my life. And I felt that seeing all of these through television, seeing my generation firstly uprise through injustice and oppression, and really stand up to defend their peers was something that called me. So I packed my bags, I returned to Venezuela, and I have been involved in youth activism and student organizing ever since.
From Venezuela, Ana Ferreira brings the fire of youth activism. She mobilizes millions, designs nonviolent protocols, and builds networks of female leadership across Latin America.
My name is Ana Ferreira. I am a Venezuelan youth activist working on dismantling systems of oppression through meaningful youth civic engagement and peace building. And I do this through local networks such as Juventud Cívica and global networks such as Cívicus Youth. First, to bring a bit of light of what's going on in Venezuela. So we have been undergoing over 25 years of an oppressive regime that violates human rights, that imprisons activists, that silences voices, and that shapes the country to the need of just a few. And the injustice and the gap of participation only increases year by year in Venezuela. We are the second biggest migration that the world has ever seen. We are just right under Syria, with over 8 million Venezuelans fleeing the borders, looking for a better future and escaping the regime. I myself now am one of that 8 million and have been forcibly displaced from my country. And we are a conflict that is not caused by a war. We are a conflict that is caused by a general oppression and how the lack of institutions and the systemized closing of civic space affects the way a country and the way a society looks.
In Burundi, Landry Ninteretse turned the pain of civil war into a movement for climate justice and youth empowerment.
My name is Landry Ninteretse. I'm a peace builder from Burundi, an organization called Action for Peace and Development. What we do is peace education and creating dialogue between communities in the country and diaspora. I started thinking about peace and justice when I lost a cousin of mine. He was 16, he was in the army, he was shot dead while on the battlefield. At that moment, I questioned myself, I questioned what's going on, and I thought that I could be the one killed. From that moment, I started thinking of how can I, with others, bring together folks from both sides to start peace initiative instead of either joining the army or rebel movement. So that has been the most inspiring and determining moment in my life to start peace building.
My name is Maja Tittlbach. I'm coming from the Culture Accounts Foundation, and we are the organizers of the Global Peacebuilders Network. And may join some of the peace builders from our network to come to the Peace Connect conference. We are here together to learn, to listen more deeply to people from the Global South, what they really need to bring peace into their communities and in the world. And also to see if we find new members for our network, and yes, to gather and set a sign for global peace. For me, a real dream came true to come to Peace Connect in Nairobi, because many years back I met the founder, one of the founders of Peace Direct, the organizers of the Peace Connect conference. Her name is Silla Elworthy, and I made a 1-year educational program based on her knowledge, and this is actually what brought me steps towards peace. Short time later, I met Michael Gleich. He's a journalist and storyteller and one of the founders of the Culture Counts Foundation. And he went to many conflict regions and tried to find positive stories, because it is very hard to find good news from conflict regions. But peace building, these are good news. People who are living in crisis situations, in conflict zones, and finding ways to heal wounds, to cure violence, to bring peace into communities, and to stop the killing at the end. So he was traveling in many countries and brought back reporters about peace builders and brought them into media. So one day the idea came up to organize a Global Peace Builders Summit, because most of these Global Peace Builders, or better to say local peace builders, are based in their own country. Often they are the head of an NGO, and they always have to be strong, whatever they have to face. So the idea was to bring them together with other people like them in other situations, to come together and to learn from each other. And since 10 years, we are organizing the Global Peace Builders Summit yearly. And the longer we met, the more came out. It is not just about learning with each other. It is a lot about sometimes being weak with each other, crying with each other, learning about well-being, about psych-care, about trauma healing.
Hello, I'm Hendrik. I'm also coordinator of the Culture Counts Foundation. My role used to be the nature therapist for the Global Peace Builder Network for our annual Global Peace Builder Summit. Since this year, Maja and I are lucky to coordinate this beautiful network. And now we are joining the Peace Connect conference in Nairobi in order to get to know more about the peace builder discourse in the world. And we somehow would like to get an image about the creative strategies the local peace builders are finding in the transition phase globally because of the shrinking spaces, the hard to find democratic spaces. And we are very impressed what the Global Peace Builder is doing in here. Mental health and psychosocial support is very much integrated in the Global Peace Builder Summit, as we have many peace builders coming from very much affected areas by war, by conflict, by crisis. And mostly the local peace builders are affected because they are in the very first line when it comes to defend their communities. And they are bringing all the individual and collective trauma which their communities has been suffered through the past years, decades. So our approach is that we are working on together with the peace builders, that they come to our summit, reconnect, because it has been already been a place of trust. They come, they share their stories, they share their wounds, and in order to that, they feel much lighter after sharing their stories, and they feel that they are actually going through the same as the other local peace builders on the other side of the world. And what happens is that they feel seen, that they feel heard. which build a sense of coherence. And I think a sense of coherence is the basic of mental health. If you're aligned in what you do, if you feel ready to do what you actually want to do, when you feel at the right place in your community and you feel that you have the capacity to actually do what you want to do, this is a good base for all the transformational work they want to do. So the sense of coherence is not only an individual thing. If we can transfer this individual idea of coherence to a meta level, to connect, to see, okay, we all need this sense of coherence, and to share our experiences and the path that we have been going through, I think then we are on the right track.
In South Sudan, Moses John now trains communities into non-violence. His organization, known as Organization for Non-Violent and Development, ONAD, bridges divides, heals trauma, and proves that transformation is possible.
I am Dr. Moses John. I am a co-founder of the Organization for Non-Violence and Development, ONAD, based in Juba, South Sudan. ONAD is a civil society organization, and it is a peace-building organization. It actually started in 1994 when student leaders in Khartoum, by then, they met to analyze and also discuss the prevailing socioeconomic and political context in Sudan during that time. And in our analysis, we realized that the people who come from the marginalized areas of Sudan by then, of which most of us come from the southern region, we realized that there were a lot of difficulties and challenges that our people were facing, particularly those who live in internal displaced camps. And we identified a number of issues. One of those issues are human rights violations, issues of governance, but also issues of violence in our communities. So we were victims of violence, but also some of us, because of the frustration, they also started fighting, in the other communities. So one of the examples you will see during those years, if you have seen a South Sudanese being harassed by someone like from the northern part of Sudan, normally people don't ask. You just join a fight, and by the time you are taken to the police and you are asked, how did the fight start in the first place? Then you even do not know. You say, I'm sorry, I do not know. You see? So you can see that is the level of frustration. And then we started saying, okay, now in the southern region and in many parts of South Sudan, of Sudan by then, there were ongoing armed struggle. So we had to question ourselves, what do we do? If we are to attain our rights, do we have to join the armed rebellion, or we can remain as active citizens and fight for our rights without arms? Fortunately, in 1994, the apartheid system in South Africa was coming to an end. Okay. And the first election was conducted and Nelson Mandela won the election. And that inspired us. And we said, okay, there are people already fighting in the bushes of Sudan. We have chosen the way of non-violence. And the way of non-violence is that you don't run away, you don't physically fight your opponent, but you resist your opponent using tactics of civil resistance. And that is what we have chosen for ourselves.
Hi, I'm Axel. I'm a trauma therapist and I'm a trauma expert, and working with people, especially peace builders, and educating them and dealing with their own trauma, which is a biographical trauma, with ancestral trauma and collective trauma among communities. And that I'm doing for many years, and mostly in Africa, Europe, Asia, and Oceania. I become a peace builder because I want to work for a peaceful world for my grandchildren. And that is why I dedicated my trauma work into peace building, to help peace builders creating peace within themselves and among each other. What I know from my experience and what is proved across all the studies that we have is that peace builders suffer a higher risk of coming into a kind of addiction, coming into depression, to suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, to have a higher risk of getting divorced, of immune diseases. And that is because of their work, and that affects every second peace builder. So the topic of self-care and well-being for peace builders is essential for them, that they can continue their work for a long time.
Ideally, an average girl in Uganda, even in a home setting, once they are born a girl, they are like secondary citizens. In most of our tribes, the boys make the decisions with their fathers, the women and the girls are to follow. So girls grow up knowing that they are not key in contributing to decisions that affect their lives. Even in schools, we have seen that the teachers prioritize the participation of the boys compared to the girls. And that's what we want to challenge, that wherever the girl is, they are given also an opportunity to participate in spaces that contribute to their well-being. So how does this happen for a girl? So it's important to have the girls to be in a space first by themselves as girls or as individuals, to revalue themselves, to appreciate themselves, to appreciate their bodies, to find their voice, and to talk about what has been going on in their lives. Some of them have experienced a lot of violence and they have no space to talk about that. So it's important that they talk about that, and it's a means of healing. You know, when you release the pains, it's a means of healing. And as we listen, we also find ways of supporting them. And other people, other girls in the group, as they listen, they also know that they are not alone on this journey. So they together heal and they heal others. So a safe space and storytelling are the first points of interacting with the girls and understanding what they are going through in order to help them.
In the post-colonial developments in India after the British left, Manipur had its own constitution and its own democratic governance. 2 years after we were freed by the British, India took over Manipur and all the democratic institutions disappeared. Insurgency came about, and in response to this insurgency, as a counter-insurgency measure, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, which gives virtually a blank check to the military to destroy people's house, arrest people without warrant, or to use force to the extent of causing death, has been there for more than half a century. It has been in operation from 1958 onwards. And this has created an institutionalized impunity and a trail of egregious human rights violations of like rape, torture, extrajudicial execution, and forced disappearances have been documented all through.
The Civil War broke away when I was 9. So it has been a challenging period, seeing refugees hosting like 10, 20 people in a small house, no being able to go to school, and other challenges associated with conflict. So it was such a hard moment, but that didn't stop me to, even at a young age, start thinking of what can I do with others, of course, in terms of keeping and having our society, our communities safer. So it wasn't easy, but the hardship didn't stop me and my fellow peace builders to think of some sort of small activities, small action that can be undertaken at community level to make our societies and our communities safer.
Me as a young person, I have a hard time picturing my future in my country, and I have a hard time picturing anyone else's after me's future in my country. So that's what we're fighting for. We're fighting not only for that future that we imagine, we're fighting for the present. And right now, youth plays a really, really critical role in that. We know that most of this migration that we've faced is youth. We are being discouraged from participating, discouraged from raising our voices. The movements that have come up to protest have been mostly youth-led throughout the years of the conflict in Venezuela. And what we see is that there is a disconnection between what civil society does and what the decision makers do. And I am committed into bridging that divide and really, really bring youth into negotiation, into powerful spaces for communication, and mostly to keep youth fully motivated and sensing that what they're living is not what is meant to be, and that we have a real role in changing our realities.
Most of the root causes of conflict are political in nature, because when we attain our independence, people are expected to have fair representations in governance positions. Also, people expect equal distribution of resources, and people expected the youth to have an opportunity to have where they can work, to have employment opportunities, but also to develop their potential as youth. There are issues of limited civic space, and we believe that civic space is necessary to build a peaceful and democratic South Sudan. And therefore, ONAD works together with the other civil society actors, like the Civil Society Task Force for the implementation of the peace agreement, as well as South Sudan Network for Democracy and Elections, SUNDE. At the regional level, ONAD is connected to the Pan-African Nonviolence and Peacebuilding Network, that's PENPEN. And in fact, I am the co-chair of the PENPEN. And PENPEN is a member of the International Fellowship of Reconciliation. PENPEN is also a member through ONAD in the Global Peacebuilder Summit. And all these national, regional, and international network of peacebuilders makes ONAD in a very strategic position in order to advocate for peaceful South Sudan, locally, regionally, and internationally.
Trauma healing for Peacebuilders is very important, of course, to heal their own trauma so that they can stay healthy or become healthy again, that they are minimizing their risks of re-traumatization, and that they are increasing their own impact in the work they are doing with other Peacebuilders. Because if you work with traumatized persons, it's essential that you have worked on your own trauma, because you are creating some kind of a vessel inside of you where you can hold the trauma of others. And if that vessel is very small, you cannot create much impact. But if that vessel is big enough, then you can create a huge impact with groups and communities.
The main conflict that I am working on shifting is the how youth participates to dismantle oppression. So youth in a society like Venezuela, that you're highly oppressed by systems that weren't created by you, that you didn't take any part in also destroying, it's really hard to see ways of participating, engaging, and making your voice not only be heard, but be translated into reality. So what I do is create spaces for rethinking our commitment and our way of engaging with society, of youth to be able to come together and to generate powerful movements that imagine the country and takes the actions in order to lead it. I am committed into having these movements being peaceful amidst a lot of polarization and a lot of divide that we face, not only in the country, but in the region and in the world. So we are really pushing forward Venezuelan youth to have a compassionate view of our present, of our future, and that future is built in togetherness.
What inspired us was the potential of nonviolence, because we have been fighting all for the last 50 plus years. But then nonviolence was an ideal that was not explored by our people. And we believe that nonviolence can work because it has worked in many countries. And therefore, we have started also reading our Bibles. And we were mostly Christian when we started. And we read about Jesus and nonviolence. And we have seen the messages of Jesus when he said, if you are slapped on your left cheek, you turn the other one. And that does not necessarily mean you extend yourself to your opponent for further exploitation. It means you appeal to your opponent, you appeal to his conscience that you are evil, what you are doing is not good, and that you have to do something better. And therefore, we started studying our Bible, and we realized that nonviolence actually existed even before Gandhi was born. And I think even Gandhi himself, he acknowledged that nonviolence is as old as mountains and hills.
Manipur was an independent country before the British came. The British came and colonized us. And when British was leaving, Manipur regained its independence and had our own constitution and a democratically elected constitutional monarchy. 2 years after the establishment of this constitutional monarchy, India took over Manipur, and thereafter was kept as a directly governed state within the Indian Union. This has not made the people very happy, and insurgency slowly came about, people feeling discriminated from the rest of the country. And in response to this, the government of India have imposed this Armed Forces Special Powers Act, which is the law that gives complete impunity to go and arrest someone without warrant, destroy property without warrant, and to use force to the extent of causing death. And this has left a trail of human rights violations, starting from rape to torture to extrajudicial execution and forced disappearances. And what we have done is to organize the victims, the families of the victims, come together and stake their claim in the constitutional courts in India. And the aha moment was when the Supreme Court listened to us and tried to respond to that. And today, we have at least 100 policemen now lining up on charges of murder.
When we engage the girls, some of them share their stories of healing. And that gives hope to other girls that, yes, if this girl has been in this situation, they overcame it and now they are thriving, it's also possible for me, if I'm going through the same situation, to give an opportunity to healing and thrive. So after engaging the girls and training them in various aspects, once they revalue themselves, they find their voice, then they're able to identify what is violence, to identify the forms of violence, they're able to talk about it, they're able to report, they're able to seek support as girls. But this is also difficult to sustain if we don't engage the people who are around them. And who are the people around the girls? They are the boys, the brothers in their families, they are their parents, it's the community around them. All those contribute to their thriving. So it's important that as we engage the girls, we also engage the people around them. We engage the community leaders who are in charge of the norms and beliefs, so that everybody, wherever they are, they create a violence-free society for the girls to thrive.
We are actually dealing in Burundi with a conflict of a magnitude of a genocide. Many of the international community know about what happened in Rwanda in '94. What they didn't know is that Burundi went through a similar crisis, not with the same magnitude, but close to it. It's estimated that 500,000 people were killed in 1993 because of who they are. This is a fact that many of you know at the moment. So it's a conflict between the Hutu and the Tutsis following the assassination of President Dadaye in '93. So since then, a brutal civil war broke out, and thousands and hundreds of people have been killed. And since then, a peace accord was signed and later violated. And at the moment, even 25, 30 years later, the country is yet to be reconciled fully.
I truly believe in the power of networks. In the time of most distress that I felt in my life, it has been networks, the ones that have come to my rescue. After I was finishing my student movement leadership, we faced a really big migration wave. And I looked for international networks that were able to give me some insights of is this happening somewhere else? Is someone else facing the same challenges that we are? How is everyone else overcoming this? And the answer has really changed my life. I was able to join the Civicus Youth Network that I'm now leading after 5 years. And I was able to find a really, really strong group of peace builders in the Global Peace Building Network. So to see a lot of those networks come together here, a lot of local peace builders that I've been in contact with through different spaces, to just come together in one space that celebrates locality, that celebrates peace building and celebrates our connectiveness. I think that's the most important part. I feel the reason it's called Peace Connect is because we need to be connected, and peace is built by connections, and peace is built by the togetherness that we build in spaces like this.
To work for peace building, and particularly to work for a non-violent, peaceful and democratic country, this is a huge responsibility, and UNAD cannot do it alone. And therefore we have to work together with grassroots, national, regional and international partners in order to solidify the position of civil society calling for a peaceful country. And of course, being part of these networks, first of all, it inspires us. It gives us more capacity building in order to do our work, but it also broadens our understanding, because peace building is not only a national issue, it is actually a global issue. Many countries also need peace building, and South Sudan is part of the global community. And therefore, it is very important that we should understand peace from local, national, regional, and international perspective.
How do we use this? How do we organize this kind of victims, and how do they claim their rights using the Constitutional Court as well as the UN Human Rights Procedure, which are available today, is what we have been doing. And it is quite interesting to see the change. Many of these widows, like 28-year-old widow with an 8-month-old child, husband killed, branded as terrorists, cannot access any of the welfare measures that the government has provided because you are branded as a terrorist family.
I believe it's extremely important to invest in youth. At the moment as we speak, the groups, peace clubs, members we've been working with in the last 10 years or so are the current peace activists that are spreading messages of hope, of justice, of reconciliation in the community. We've planted a seed in a generation that is now taking care of their parents and the communities. So this is some of the one example of investing in peace education at a younger age, so that the kids and the youth can grow up with that spirit, with that awareness to be peacekeepers, peace builders, and be the agent of peace and change in their communities. Without them, at the moment, with all that going on in terms of manipulation, disinformation, Burundi would be a different country if we hadn't invested in those peace clubs.
I think that peace builders really should go through a trauma training, which means they are working on their own trauma. And working on own trauma means you're working on your own history, what you have experienced since early childhood, that you work on trauma in your family systems, which is intergenerational trauma, and that you know about collective and systemic trauma, because you're working instead of communities of nations and of cultures, religions, and these 3 or 4 levels of trauma, they are always interconnected. So to be aware of that, and then to decide and on which level are you starting to work with trauma. And therefore I recommend for everyone who is doing peace building, please do a trauma training for your own sake and the sake of the others.
The Global Peacebuilders Network started out of the yearly happening Global Peacebuilders Summit, which shall give a space for peace builders, local peace builders, mostly from the Global South, to share and learn together, and to also have space for solidarity, to listen to their stories, to share their methods and their learnings.
Since 2 years, Maja and I have a common friend. I met Michael in a restaurant in Berlin, and I shared about my background. I did a nature therapy course for 5 years, so I was lucky to contribute to the Global Peacebuilder Summit with nature therapy. And one of the core aspects, as Maja mentioned, is the well-being and the renewal, the retreat character for the local peace builders. And what we're trying to do is create a space where they can share their stories, where they can share their wounds, where they can share their pain, where is a common understanding of what they're going through. And yeah, we are trying to contribute different methods, skills. Our trauma therapist Axel is also there, and with the nature walks in the morning, we are trying to have a continuous space of recreation and renewal.
I've been a member of GPN, Global Peace Network, for over 10 years now. And this is a family. This is a community of, I think, over 40 people from all over the world, peace activists, leaders, community engaged citizens that are doing all they can in their respective communities and context to safeguard peace. So it has been a journey of learning, of transformation, of healing, because we do come together every year, whenever possible, to celebrate, to unite, to get energy, to heal and grow together. And now, today, we are not here not just as GPN, but as a wider community of 500-600 people at Peace Connect in Nairobi, where we are actually joined by a wider and diverse group. So there is so much wisdom in this room, in this conference. There is so many experiences, lessons, learning, and experiences that we are tapping to. So when we go back, we are enriched with all the conversations, all the dialogue, all the networking, the exchanges that we are making here. So it's been a pleasure and privilege to be not only part of the GPN, but also to be present here at Peace Connect, because I think every one of us is going back home, not only re-energized, but more wiser and richer in terms of knowledge and ways we can deal with our conflict back home.
First of all, I'm thankful to be in such a wonderful environment that we have here, and to see all the people who are doing this amazing work. And what I learned is that trauma healing for peace builders is still a little bit of a blind spot. They are still concentrating on helping others, but not helping themselves, which from my point of view is really essential. And that is what I learned, to work on that, to increase the awareness of your own trauma healing as a peace builder. And on the other hand, the GPN network, for me, it's like a family over the years. You know the guys and the girls, you know them better and better. And my admiration for their work increases. And the more I know about them, I can really imagine how to help them and how we can create projects that help them sustain their own health in the long run, and what kind of collaborations will develop out of that network. And that really excites me.
Being part of the global peace network, it's like a blessing to me. It's like I have a family with whom we share the same goals, with whom we share the same values, and therefore we share notes, and each one takes out best practices to enhance peace in their community. And I've learned a lot from them, which have helped, the lessons have helped me to improve the processes of family reconciliation, family and child reconciliation in the communities we work in the West Nile part of Uganda and in Kampala. Being here at the Peace Connect Summit is one of the greatest opportunities I've had, because I've met so many people from different cultural backgrounds and having the same intention, same purpose of making this world peaceful for all of us. It's a great opportunity for us to learn. It also comes at a moment where we've been having challenges, or we continue to have challenges of funding. So together we will craft ways of managing our work, continue to do the work we love in ways we can to have it sustainable. So it's a great opportunity to learn, reflect, rest, and go back and implement.
So the byline or the theme of bringing this global peace builders together was local peace builders together for a global peace. It's already 9 years that the Global Peace Builders network has been meeting regularly and trying to develop this idea. And in a way, the Peace Connect today is a larger manifestation of it.
And what we learned from, for example, Medica Mondiale, Monica Hauser, she's also one member of our Peace Builder network. One war, 3 generations of trauma. So there are different kinds of trauma, and it can go through generations. So this is why it is so important that we include this trauma work more for peace builders, and that we train them in giving trauma workshops. Like, first of all, working on their own trauma, and then learning how to give trauma workshops to bring it back to their communities and to different contexts to heal the wounds of the past. This is very, very important, and I think will be a big of the future role of our network.
I think the biggest challenge that has been identified in the plenary of this meeting is that today the world is changing rapidly. And as the world is changing rapidly, there are new institutions coming up. The old institutions are already redundant. They are hopeless. The problem is, at least when the United Nations was formed in the 1940s, there was an effort, there was an idealism that drive these institutions. Freedom from fear, freedom from want, as the Atlantic Charter have pointed out. Unfortunately, today's institutions are created not by these values, but by greed of power, of control, of domination. I think at this point in time, it is necessary to bring in the global peace builders together, create that empathy and create that moral compass, so that these new institutions that is emerging today should also follow the same way as the ideas of freedom from peace, freedom from want, and freedom from fear directed the creations of institutions in the 40s and thereafter, right after the Second World War. I think today there is a need for the global peace builders who are suffering conflict for decades together, whether it is in Mali or in Gaza or in much closer the South Sudan, or this whole belt right up to Congo. All these people need to come together because they have experienced what is conflict, and they are trying to respond to this conflict. And the world is facing this problem at a much larger scale. If we can bring this empathy with which peace builders have worked together all this while at a global level, I think that is the moral compass that we need to use to create these new institutions that are emerging as the old one fades away.
For us, it is so beautiful to see that some of the people from our network were able to come to Peace Connect to really share with their colleagues about their experience, and also bringing back all the knowledge and all the stories which are here in the room and in the space. They can bring it back home to our network. And so, yeah, it goes on and on. We can learn together, and at the end, this will be one path to peace.
Peace Connect conference is indeed a space for connection, for networking, for reflection, and for learning from our own peace building efforts, but also from learning from the experience of other peace building actors in the region, but also globally. And so, for me, as a member of the Global Peace Builder Network, it gives me an opportunity in order to try to compare how GPS and the Peace Connect try to support peace builders in their efforts to build peace in their various countries. For example, I see a lot of similarities. What we do in the Global Peace Builder Network is that we create a space for peace builders from conflict-affected countries to come together in order to reflect from their experiences, but also to rest and also have an opportunity to heal. Because in most cases, peace builders are busy with addressing peace building issues in their countries, and they don't have time for themselves. And that's what Global Peace Builder Network is doing. And I've seen the same happening with Peace Connect. So there are a lot of similarities between the two. Also, the fact that this meeting brought activists also mostly from the Global South, it means a lot, because our partners in the Global North, we believe, yes, they have peace building issues in their countries, but it is important that we should compare notes and also learn from each other's experience, so that we can move on and continue to tap in some of the efforts that we have as an experience. So for me, as a person, I really appreciate the Global Peace Builder Network for giving me this opportunity to learn, to reflect, but also to re-energize in order to go back home and continue the peace building work in a more broader way, and hopefully to ensure that we, together with other civil society actors, build a non-violent, peaceful, and democratic South Sudan.
For me, being here at the Peace Connect conference in Nairobi, I think mostly means inspiration, because seeing that in every and each context in the world, people find solutions for the problems that are there. It doesn't matter which context, they are creative, they stay together, and it's always about togetherness and building up a community. Collectively, we can face the challenges. Individually, what is going on, what is the propaganda of the capitalist society, I don't know, it will be hard to face it alone, I guess. But finding solutions collectively and strengthen each other in the way the communities can actually, this is the way. And this is what I see here in the local peace builders, that they actually stand to their communities, that they're mostly coming from their communities, and they know what the needs of their communities are.
And at the Global Peace Builders Summit, we really want that the peace builders take the space themselves for what they want to share, what they need. There are open spaces that they can offer their own sessions. They can bring their own topics in. And we learned a lot. It is not so much about learning together. It is really about being together. Sometimes it is not about doing things all the time. Sometimes sometimes a little bit less can be more. So we celebrate together, we sing together, we dance together, we have cultural nights, we have a lot of storytelling, we have a lot of laughter, though there's so much pain in the room sometimes. So all this is combined, and in the last 10 years, I think we really became a big global family already.
What I would like to share is the power of listening, of deep listening, because I think we've created somehow a culture of talking, and we all want to be heard, but deep listening and step back and actually only be with the other person and give the other person whatever the person needs to express themselves.
Almost everyone who is coming into the trainings and whom I know for longer, he is reporting or she is reporting about that post-traumatic growth, that they are really growing above their old trauma by facing their trauma and by integrating that, and that makes me really happy, and that gives me all the strength and enthusiasm to continue my work with them.
I have come to learn that a big percentage of conflicts that we have are based on the capitalistic nature of human beings. And unfortunately, many men have been at the front of the war. But to have sustainable peace, it's important that the women are involved. And if it is to be really, really sustainable, it's now that we have to include the young girls.
Each conversation, each embrace, each shared silence become a thread in a tapestry of global healing. Together, they stitch a new narrative, one of courage, compassion, and collective strength. Because peace is not just the absence of war, it is the presence of understanding, that of dignity and hope.
We have to learn to forgive. We have to learn to listen to each other and to come together, to start speaking together, to understand each other. That brings us so many steps forwards. And when I see the trauma in the world, trauma is separation. And what we need is connection. So when we connect, I can connect with myself, I can connect with the nature, I can connect with people, with each other. This is peace, and it is possible.
We need to grow peace building wider and bigger than before. And it starts with everyone. I think everyone can do something little, a little contribution to make our communities, our societies safer. Whether you talk to your neighbor, whether you try to understand their perspective, whether you go and meet, whether you sit and have a coffee, a drink, you can do something to bring out peace in your communities. You don't have to be a renowned activist looking for a Nobel Prize to be called peace building. You start with your neighbor. Love your neighbor. Listen to your neighbor. Get closer to him. You are already contributing to make the society peaceful and stable.
I would say that peace building matters, that the work that every single one of the persons that are here do in wherever they are, it is such powerful work that I am sure that we will see the fruits of those planted seeds in the way that our world is shaped. We have a lot of uncertainties in our world, but we also have a lot of amazing people working together to make the world a better place, to make the world a more peaceful place, and for us to think of conflict differently. Conflict is not going to disappear, but we can make conflict come into solutions that makes us stronger, that makes us a more united society, and that bridges divides not only between ourselves in our countries, but along the world and along the narratives that are being promoted.
Conflicts are inevitable. They will always happen no matter how we try to avoid. But conflict doesn't have to be violent. We can still address our conflicts using a non-violent means than using armed confrontations. The time for armed conflict has elapsed. It is time for us to use peaceful means, including dialogue, in order to address and manage our conflicts so that together we can build a country for ourselves, but most importantly, for our children and coming generation, because some of us, we have lived all our lives in conflict. And we really worry that our children should not continue to live in the same situation.
And if we can bring all these people working in that specific struggles for peace in their areas together, the synergy that will be created out of it. All the people are responding to empathy of their community. But if this empathy can be expanded to not just isolated communities, but to the whole humanity, the idea and the effort that will emerge out of it will be for a global peace.
Guys, everyone, go to the nature, reconnect to nature. The nature itself has its power, and if we reconnect again to the outer nature, we can also find our own self better. So go and reconnect.
To the youth watching, to the leaders listening, to the world waiting, peace is possible. And it begins with us. From Nairobi, a new chapter begins, one of courage, compassion, and connection.
My name is Hendrik. I'm also coming from the Culture Counts Foundation. My role used to be the nature therapist for the well-being of the Global Peacebuilder Network, as we have an annual meeting since 9 years already. Up to last year, we've gathered. Oh, sorry.
Just
yeah.
When you realize you've missed, just take a pause
And
then
continue. Okay. Because he was doing something and I thought it was about me. Sorry.
Who are you?
Yeah, just 1 second.